talking with Shivani Peterson, who is a loan officer and educator on social media. She shares a lot of really interesting content around the mindset that goes with the way that we talk about and experience money, and how important it is that we understand the psychology of both our consumers, if you're working as a leader with a consumer, and as the consumer, to understand what is actually making us anxious as we think and talk about money. So we talk about getting to the core of why we might make smart money decisions and might not. We talk about how to kind of uncover some of those anxieties and how to improve the way that we educate the next generation. So enjoy. Shivani, thank you so much for taking some time to chat today. I am a huge fan of your content and education, and happy to hear some of your thoughts today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I really appreciate that feedback, because putting out content is a ton of work, and like people online can be mean too. And so it's nice to hear nice things and makes me not want to quit.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine anyone being mean to you, but I know the internet is crazy. So
It's also amazing though. Like for all the horrible people online, there's amazing people online.
Yeah, I'm sure. And your content is very authentic and education focused. I'm sure and I'll ask you about this in a second about how it has impacted your business, but what was your reasoning or passion behind leading with education?
I think it's just kind of who I am. I'm a pretty transparent person, and I also only want people to work with me who want to work with me. So then I thought, if I can create this platform online where I educate people and show them my thought process and how I do business, then they'll reach out to me if that vibes with them. And if it doesn't, they won't.
Yeah, one of the things I've loved about your content is that you are kind of all about you do what's right for you, not this is a blanket statement for everyone. And I've heard you say that to turn your audience into clients, you have to teach them something. How has education been a competitive advantage for you?
Well, I think that a lot of times, especially real estate and finance people, so not just mortgages, but in the whole bigger industry of finance and educating people, and if you correlate that to Americans' like direct lack of confidence when it comes to money, I think it's because people don't speak to them on their level. Like people try to assume what level you're on, and they don't know. And then they start speaking to you, and then you get pigeonholed, I think, into this place you don't want to be. If I look at like motherhood, which became exponentially better for my generation than it was for my parents. Our mom's generation like had it so hard. Nobody talked about how hard it was. But ours does. Like it's all over social media. People talk about how hard it is to be a parent and to be a working parent or to be a stay-at-home parent. It's all hard. It's just different hard. But we don't do that with money quite yet. Like people are still keeping it very close to their chest and not wanting to be open about what they have or don't have or what's working for them or what isn't. And I just think like motherhood got so much better when people were real about it. Like can we do that with money too?
That's a really interesting comparison. It's funny because I kind of just recently realized how much of a role money had on my sense of self. I don't know. I've been talking about this a little bit, like psychology of money over the last year, but for me personally, it has like me getting more of a control over my finances or understanding how it can work for me, that type of thing, that dramatically changed my whole life. And and I think that's kind of an obvious statement, but it just hit me recently how much that I want to advocate for that for other people. But it is a really hard topic for people. And I think just talking about education, you often get people glazing over, like I did for so many years, where I hear someone talking about it and it just makes me anxious. So I'd follow all these like financial literacy people, but I would skip past them because I'm like, that makes me, I don't know, it just brings up an emotion. Yeah, uncomfortable. And people are uncomfortable. There's shame around money. But one of the things I love about your content is that you are incorporating things about your mindset and how the psychology of money. And I think you had mentioned that you are studying psychology as well. So I'd like to dig in on that. Like, how do you feel what role, I guess, does the psychology of money play into someone's success, I guess, in dealing with their finances.
I had just like realized so I had been doing mortgage lending for over 5 years, and I was noticing that people fought in my office about money a lot. Like they
Mhm.
fought with their partners. There was problems with passing down multi-generational wealth, and parents, like struggling with, do I want to see my kids enjoy this money, or do I want to make them wait till I'm dead? And how do I evenly distribute it? And then seeing people fight with their siblings over inheritances and what to do with the house, divorces people fight about. I found that when people were showing up to get a mortgage, the way that they had viewed money their whole life, the way they handled money in their relationships, the way they interacted with money was very psychological. So then I was like, I need to go to school because I'm not properly equipped to help people with the therapy and like the psychology of how they're thinking about money. So I started an online program that I'm working through to get a marriage and family therapist degree, my MFT. And I think it'll help me help people get past their obstacles when it comes to money, because we don't realize how much it impacts every decision we make. And it can be stuff that's as deeply rooted as like the way money was handled when we were 6 years old.
Yeah, completely. I think that line of thinking is really interesting and important. And I hope I'm hearing that more from people, and maybe it's just who I'm surrounding with, but I do think that we've understood in recent years, kind of to your motherhood comment, we've understood in recent years that what we experience in childhood impacts our relationships as we get older, but we don't understand as much how much our experience with money in our childhood impacts the rest of our lives as well. So how we grew up, what the messages were around money from our parents or caregivers. And so I love that you're really pairing that psychology aspect or mindset aspect with your education content.
I just want to be able to reach more people, because I think that I fully believe that home ownership changes the course of people's lives. I've seen it change hundreds of families' lives that I've helped at work. I've also seen it change my own personal finances, investing in real estate. And it's something I do personally. So I really believe in it. But I see people get in their own way so much. And I also see a ton of misinformation out there from the media in terms of headlines, but then also from like the old school lenders and the big name lenders. And I think that it's an uphill battle to kind of dispel these myths or be a myth buster. But if I could get more people to just become aware, or to be willing to find out where they stand and to do the work to get where they need to be, I think that the reward far outweighs the amount of work they have to put in. Like, it might be uncomfortable, it is going to require some work on your part, but the reward is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. I bought a home in LA a couple years ago, and I hadn't owned a home in like
Oh,
10
good for
years
you.
before that. Thank you. But it was funny because it took me a long time to realize that I should buy a home here. That was a good thing for me, because I just had so much anxiety about it. And I mean, it's a big purchase. But here I've spent a lot of my career on financial literacy and specifically home buyer education. And then when it came to my own decisions, it was very hard to make that move. But it was only when I actually talked to Dave Savage and some other professionals in the industry that were like, here's a rent versus zone. Like, this is what it means to you in real dollars. But it made me realize how much my emotions were impacting the way that I like a smart decision I should make. Um,
I say all the time. So I have a realtor friend who told me that we should have to buy a house once every 5 years so that we realize like the human aspect of this, because we get too caught up in the numbers and the business of it, and we can't relate to our clients. And it's so true. Like, we went to buy a house, to buy a second home during the pandemic, and I made every mistake. Like, I messed up so many things because I was emotional. I was like, you know better than this when it comes to negotiating. Like, what is wrong with you? And then I was like, it's different when it's you and it's your pocketbook, but also like your emotions play in. Real estate's personal.
yeah, totally. That's so true. The home is a different kind of investment because it's so much more personal. So one of the things that I also like about your content is that you do a lot of things that seem to be geared towards women. I saw some education content you put out there about like the future is female. And today, actually, that day we're recording this, I released the 2023 Next Gen Women's Homebuyer Report. and saw that in that research, there was still in the Millennial and Gen Z range, there's still a big disparity in education, financial education, or confidence in their financial education between men and women, and overall support or experience of support and advice. So I just want to know from your perspective, as you have worked with women specifically, how do you think, I guess, we can do better as an industry or as leaders to equalize those financial outcomes for women?
I think that it's just reaching them because women are so busy. So a lot of my mission is to educate women on the benefits of real estate investing and on being more financially confident without making it feel like education. So my target audience that I'm typically speaking to is a female between 30 and 50 years old. And most women between 30 and 50 years old are very busy between work and their families. It's not likely that they're going to pick up a book and read it after they get their kids to bed, or that they're going to start an online course. So we have to be creative in the ways we're trying to reach them for this education. And that's why I've gone so hard on creating short form video content online, like Reels and TikToks, because I can educate them and raise their awareness about another way that's out there for them to get off the hamster wheel and take back their time and become more financially confident while they think that they're just unwinding and scrolling through Reels. And I
Yeah.
found that it's been really successful in reaching women because I know how busy we are. I feel it too. And so I know that I'm not likely to go to a seminar or sign up for a workshop on the weekend because it's just not realistic in my life right now.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things I found in doing research with Millennial and Gen Z consumers is that there is a lot of anxiety when it comes to the market and like lack of confidence and that type of thing. And
Also,
you,
seeing their parents lose homes in the Great Recession
yeah,
to foreclosures
totally.
and short sales.
And like millennials entered adulthood during or right after the financial crisis, like those things do impact the way that you view housing and the market. But you say you should have a healthy fear around buying a home. Like this isn't something that a lot of people say, don't be afraid, this is a stable market type of thing. But how do you help people kind of calm some of those anxieties, but be rational about them so that they can make a smart decision?
I think that a lot of times people don't realize what their real fear is. So I've gotten really good at listening and trying to figure out what they're not saying. So oftentimes I'll have someone come to me and say, they're very like, well, I'm not going to buy at the top of the market and I'm not going to pay top dollar and I don't have to do this right now. So unless the house checks every box on my list, I'm not buying. And what I'm trying to figure out is what's the real concern here? Is it that they think they're not going to qualify? Is it that they're worried they won't qualify for the same price home that they're renting and they really like the neighborhood they're in right now? Like, let's peel back some of these external things that we think are stopping us from buying because it's either the messaging that we're hearing constantly or what our parents told us. But let's peel it back and see what's really causing you that hesitation and address that. Oftentimes, you have a husband and wife, right, who are failing to finish each other's sentences in my office for 15 minutes. He's gung ho about buying right now. She's very anti. Her parents lost a house during the foreclosure. She's really scared about all these headlines. Then I find out that he's really running the finances without her being privy to much information. So she doesn't know how ready they are for this purchase because she's not in the loop.
That's interesting. Yeah, I realized for myself that a lot of my fear and anxiety was around, what if I should be investing in something else, like putting that money in the stock market or whatever. And I don't know, I think looking at the numbers for that looked for me and what my pros and cons were, like just laying it out for me made a huge difference, and it uncovered some of the underlying anxieties that I didn't realize I really had, or some of my underlying goals that I didn't realize I had.
Yes. I think that if you can get through the process and find someone that you click with to trust to advise you, then you'll really be able to explore all of this and uncover what the real obstacle is for you, whether it's actual or perceived.
Yeah, totally. So I am working on a nonprofit called FirstHome IQ with Dave Savage. And the goal of that would be to educate high school and college students about home ownership. And so taking this from someone who is ready or a little late to buying a home or thinking about buying a home in the very near future to normalizing this at a younger age and teaching them as they're still thinking about what their future finances will look like. Do you have any ideas on what 2 or 3 lessons would be that you think would be important to know by the age of 21?
I think we have to be really careful about how we broach this subject with educating like high schoolers and college students about this because one, are they in the right mind space to really retain the information? Two, who's going to sponsor these programs? Because if it's going to be someone like Wells Fargo, I'm not really that interested in them like peddling out a message to little kids.
Yeah.
But I am on board with increasing financial confidence. And I think you're 100% on the right path that we have to start younger. We have to start with high school and college students. So I think what we focus on is not diving into the specifics of compound interest and how a mortgage amortizes, but we talk about a good debt versus a bad debt because it's really helpful to know in college how debt works. Because I know that I signed up for a lot of credit cards at 18 and I graduated with like $10,000 of credit card debt and had really no idea what the F I was going to do to get out of that hole.
Yeah.
So good debt versus bad debt would be a valuable lesson to start senior year of high school.
Okay.
And then I think we can talk about leverage and return on investment. So how has America designed this thing where you can buy like a couple $100,000 asset for $25,000 of your own money? You're going to own it with like 3 to 5% skin in the game. And then you get to reap all the rewards of the appreciation on that. I think if we explain leverage and return on investment, that's an important concept to start grasping early because it helps dispel a lot of the fears you're going to have about a market crash or what happened to your parents happening to you or the headlines that are very designed to like, they're clickbait. But if you understand how this really works in the long game, then I think it benefits you. And then that'll tie into education that goes beyond real estate and into like long-term investing, planning for retirement, planning to like get back your life because I think that Gen Z and millennials, they're not down at all with this whole we're going to work till we're 65 and then retire.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that's so good. I forget stuff I learned in a pretty short period of time. And there's no way I remember most of what I learned in high school and college, especially when it comes to anything. I didn't learn anything finance related, but if I did, I would not remember it. But I think those core concepts, that stays with you because it is something that's immediately practical. And it also lays a foundation for things that you will learn as you grow. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's good. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to share. And if people want to follow you, which I encourage everyone to follow you on Instagram or whatever platforms, what is your handle?
It's at Shiv Peter on Instagram and TikTok. And then I have a YouTube channel as well. But if you head to my Instagram, you'll find the links in my bio to everything that I have going on.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks again, Shivani. It was great to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.